Did you know that less than 10% of agencies ever sell for over $1 million? And it's not because agencies can't be valuable. It's because most agency owners are building businesses that literally cannot scale. Look, I understand you started your agency to make money and to eventually have financial freedom. But instead, you are stuck doing everything yourself, taking any client that walks through the door or throws money at you. And honestly, you're basically running an expensive freelance operation that you can't step away from for more than a few days. Over the past few years, I have built and scaled multiple million-dollar agencies. And I've helped dozens of agency owners go from that freelance trap to building actual sellable businesses worth millions. And what I'm about to show you, it isn't just theoretical advice. It's the exact 7-step roadmap that my most successful partners have used to scale their agencies to multi-million dollars. And in the next 25 minutes, I'm gonna break down the 7 phases that every agency must go through, from picking the right niche and service, to building systems that run without you, to positioning your agency so that when you are ready to sell, buyers are fighting over it instead of picking it apart. And stick around, because I'll also show you the biggest mistakes that kill deals and cost agency owners hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if you are ready to stop running a glorified freelance business and start building something that actually scales and sells, let's jump in. Okay, so I have this goofy roadmap thing, and I'm gonna explain these 7 steps. So I feel like I didn't design this when I built my agency, but this kind of happened organically. And I feel like if I would go back, these are the things, if I was starting over again, like that I would focus on. And I'm gonna give you the reasons why I would do them. So the first one is selecting a niche, right? And this might sound, again, a basic beginner step to those of you that are more established, but for those of you that are not, or for those of you that run agencies that maybe work with anybody, I'm going to tell you why you have to select a niche to get the plane off the ground and start making money. And to me, the reason is that it's such a competitive marketplace that we're in, and it's already very hard to close deals, that if you don't have a very specific client avatar that you can speak to and be a specialist for that client avatar, it becomes very hard to close deals. So some agencies that I've come across are like, hey, look, I work with a roofer, I work with a chiropractor, I work with an e-commerce store, whatever. And typically the reason for that I find is because they don't have lead generation set up and they're not able to consistently get people on sales calls and sign deals. So what you do by default, anybody that gets referred to you or anybody you can get in front of, you're like, cool, I'll sell you something and take your money because I don't know where my next deal is coming from. However, that's a big mistake because now you're doing fulfillment for different client avatars and different niches, and it doesn't allow you to build a system. When you think about an agency that can scale and make a lot of money, you want to think about an assembly line, right? And I know there's a negative connotation with this, but like everybody's like, I'm not the cookie cutter marketing company. Like you want to be the cookie cutter marketing company. That doesn't mean that you can't do customization for your clients. But the way that you scale a business and make a lot of money is having a repeatable product that you can give to a specific client over and over, get the same result, and you can do it in a systematic way so that you could do it again and again and again. If every client's different, which leads me to step 2, and if every service delivery for that client is different, you get stuck in freelance mode. Pretty much, right? So let me give you real life examples of these, right? When I say scalable service design, like what the hell does that even mean, right? This just means pick one product and make that your fulfillment for your client. Here's a common one that I get, right? I hear this from agency owners where they're like, yeah, but the best thing for my client is they need SEO, they need lead generation, they need a pretty website, they need GBP, they need reputation management. This is how their business becomes better. So I want to be the agency that delivers everything to them so I am more valuable and I have a better service. In theory, that sounds right. And it's actually correct. However, that's what we should do for our businesses. That's not what we should do for our clients, right? And I'll explain why. It's very hard to become a specialist at all of those things, right? Now, as you scale and you make a shitload of money and you got 50 employees and that, you can start to branch out, right? But we're talking about getting to 250, 350, even 500,000. And you don't need to do it. So let's say I only do lead generation for roofers, right? This allows me to become a specialist and be really good at that, right? I know how to run ads. I know their offers. I know their copy. I know how to build their landing pages. I know how to build nurture sequences on the back end. So I become really good at that. I can build a system that I can clone and give to the next client, right? So it makes the business more scalable. Now, I don't care if it's SEO,
don't care if it's lead gen. I don't care if it's reputation management, AI automation on the back end, whatever it is. The way that I build businesses and agencies and scale them is by having one product that we're delivering to them. Also, when you think about it from a competitive standpoint, if you go and you offer a chiropractor everything, SEO, website, all this shit, right? And I just get really good at leads, I'm going to take your client eventually because I am going to be really good at lead generation. And that client, I'm going to find ways to get in front of them. And I'm going to say, look, let Dave do all the other goofy stuff he's doing for you. But he's not that good at ads because he's trying to do 6 different things and be great at all of them. And he can't. So let me take over your lead generation. We're an expert. This is all we do. This is all we do every day for chiropractors. We're really good at it. We have in-depth systems to nurture those people, to get people to say yes, to get leads to come in, to optimize your campaigns, all of these things. So stick with Dave so he can do all the other stuff, but let me take that over from you, right? And we also think like, oh, but if I offer all these services, I could charge more. Like you can charge a premium if you only do paid ads, if you're really good at getting your client results. If I know I can get a chiropractor 20 new patients, paying patients in a month, I can charge them $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 on a monthly retainer, right? So these are the first 2 steps to actually building a business that's an agency that scales. And it's the first mistake that I see most agencies make because they think, well, I'm not going to niche down because if I go wide, I have a larger TAM, total addressable market. Therefore, I have more people to work with. The problem that you're not seeing is, excuse my French, it's hard as fuck to get these people in front of you for sales appointments. So if you can't go out and speak to them directly and get them to show up to calls, it doesn't matter how big your TAM is. Your TAM means nothing if you can't get them to show up for calls. And the same thing applies to your service. If what you're offering them takes so much of your personal time, it's hard to fulfill, and you're not really, really good at it, they're going to leave you if they even decide to sign with you. You're also going to confuse them when making a buying decision. No agency that scales very quickly opens a suite of services and say, well, I have SEO at $4.99. I have paid lead generation at $15.99. I have website development at $6,000, right? That makes it harder for a prospect to make a buying decision. What we want to do is say, hey, Mr. Roofer, I am the man at getting roofing leads for you. So if you open a book and you have all these different services, like it confuses the buyer because they have too many choices. And they're like, well, what do I actually need now? Right? Which one of these are going to make sense? It becomes very hard to scale that type of business, right? Not impossible, but it's very hard. And we're talking about getting the plane off the ground quickly, right? Now, the reason most agencies don't lock in on a niche or don't lock in on a service is because they're not good at acquisition. They don't know how to get leads, and they don't know how to get those leads to show up to sales calls, and they don't know how to close deals. If you run a gym agency and you only do paid leads and you're good at getting people to show up, and that person goes, you know what? I want you to build me a $6,000 website too. It's easy to say, I don't build $6,000 websites. Go find somebody else. If you want paid ads, I could do that for you, right? Because you're not freaking out about where your next client is going to come from. So step 1 and step 2 are really a result of you not knowing how to get leads and how to close deals. You end up going, I'll take anybody and everybody and I'll do everything for them because, again, I don't know where my next meal is coming from, right? So step 1, I pick the niche. Step 2, I pick whatever the service is going to be that I'm going to deliver. And then step 3, I build an acquisition system. I don't care if it's paid ads. I don't care if it's cold email. I don't care if it's LinkedIn. I don't care if it's cold calling. I don't care if it's going to local events, whatever it is. The only thing that you have to do is you have to build a system around it. It has to be scalable, and it can't require your personal time. For example, if you get your clients from sending direct messages on LinkedIn, that's great. And I'm not saying that can't work, but if you personally have to send all the messages to book the appointments and close them, it's going to be very hard for you to scale that business. So if that's how you're getting clients on LinkedIn, you should begin to ask yourself, how can I automate this, right? Whether it be working with a third-party partner or whether it be building internal systems. There's a shitload of softwares that do a bunch of different things. How can I systemize this, right? Me, I am favorable towards paid ads. Number 1, because they work really well if you know what you're doing. Number 2, because here's how you scale them. You just put more money in the machine. Like literally, if it's working, you put more money. And if you understand your numbers, then you can take paid ads to the moon pretty much. Like we've pushed the threshold of 50, 60,000 several times. And both of my agencies spend well over $20,000, $30,000 every single month consistently because we just cracked it and it works and it's an ROI. And so we're not like if someone calls us up and goes, hey, if my fitness agency, someone calls us up and goes, we're an e-com store that we need you to help us scale our e-com store. We're just like, well, good luck. Why are you calling us? They're like, yeah, but we have money for you. We don't want your money because that's going to take us too much time to do that. In the time it would take us to build whatever you want, we can go sign 5 more gym clients and we could just onboard them quickly. And we have systemized fulfillment. And then we can go back to running our profitable, successful assembly line business, right? Step 4 is pricing your services, right? This is an art, not a science. What I mean is you have to look at competition. You have to understand market precedents. There are levels where you will price yourself out of your market, but there's also thresholds to where you're so low that your profit margins are eaten up and you're not creating a scalable business because you can't start to hire people. You can't start to reinvest in services and systems and better things. So setting up your pricing model, for example, there's many different ones, and it depends on what your niche, who you're working with, what your service is. But if you're running paid ads for any service-based business, typically in $2,500 to $3,500 range monthly is very realistic. Having a paid in full model upfront where you collect anywhere from $5,000 to say $7,500 for a 3-month engagement, those are very realistic, on par prices that you can charge. And it depends on kind of what you're doing. So I would tell you in today's world, if you're a paid ads agency, and again, I know there's a bunch of different ones, so I'm going to open it up for questions soon, but if you're a paid ad agency and you are running ads for your clients to a spreadsheet, you're definitely at a huge competitive disadvantage. If you're an agency that's running ads to a CRM like Go High Level, you're automating nurture, you're scheduling for your client, you're building their landing page, you have an AI SDR that does the follow-up calls and schedules them, you're giving your clients reporting, you're helping them structure their offer, you're building their creative, both video and image creative with their help, you're probably at the top of agencies as far as delivery, and those things can affect your pricing because people are going to shop around, and if they show up and your list of deliverables are a tenth of what another agency is, again, you're going to be at a competitive disadvantage. So then your only leverage is pricing or building out more shit for your agency. And in today's world, it's not that hard to do everything I just said, aside from maybe the AI SDR, which is becoming easier. So pricing model, especially if you're starting out, think about it like this. Charge what every decision you make has to be a decision, not what's right now, what's going to build a big business. Because if you make decisions on what will get you the money right now, like eventually you're gonna have to fire that client or change something, right? So it seems like, well, I get it, but as I grow, I'll just fix these things or adjust these things later. But the truth is, you're taking literally steps backwards in building a scalable business that's going to actually make you real money, and that isn't going to be a stress pit where you're going to literally be working all day every day and never have anything serious. So like, even if you lose a deal, even if you tell a client, look, this is what we charge, and if you're not going to close, cool, I'll go to the next one, right? Even if you make those type of hard decisions in the beginning, you're building something that's real. You're setting it up for future success. Whether you delay it or it's a little bit more painful in the process, why fuck around and waste your time and energy with doing things and building things that you know are not going to be part of a real business that's sustainable? Unless you just get into this to be a freelancer. If that's the case, you're probably in the wrong group. You're probably talking to the wrong guy, because I like building big businesses and making a lot of money and eventually doing these other cool things, which is ops efficiency, which just means delegation. Step 5 is starting to learn, where do I step out? Where do I hire people? What's the role I need to plug in? What should I be delegating? How do I delegate? How do I make sure my team is keeping up at the level that I've been fulfilling for my clients, whether you are doing CS work or you're doing your closing, right? And they never will like operate at your level, but it's creating systems and SOPs and trainings so that they're good enough, so that it's worth it for you to plug them in so that you could step out and focus on bigger level things in your business. There's a lot of nuance in this, and this is why we work one-to-one with a lot of clients and we work privately, because like I can tell you do all this shit, but going and actually doing it is a lot harder. For example, an agency that's starting out, if they come to me, one of the questions they usually ask me is like, what's the first role that I hire? And I'm like, it's actually the wrong question, right? The answer to that question is go hire somebody, typically an overseas person, so you can keep your payroll expense down, and then just make them a hybrid employee. Where do you need the most help right now? Is it media buying? Cool. Hire them in a media buying role. But if it's only you and one other person, so like have them do the same things. And then, you know, as you build out 30, 40, 50,000 CSM, it depends on what you like and don't like, but CSM role, media buying role, tech ops for GHL, you know, those are all typical roles that you would be looking to hire. And then to get even more nuanced, you know, questions, things that we help our clients with are like, how much do you pay them? How do you make sure they're performing at a high level? What's their job description? How do you train them, right? How do you hold them accountable? How do you incentivize them? Those are all kind of things inside there that you'll have to figure out. Then it gets really fun. Then step 6 is enterprise. Not every single one of them, but all my partners that I've worked with that have had a lot of success, we all had things in common, which is we land large accounts, franchise accounts, coaching organizations, large associations in our respective niche. And so what this does, obviously, is it stops all the one-to-one selling. For example, if you land a franchise and you can go to events or you are permitted to speak on stage, it gave us the opportunity to sell many to one, right? And not only can that result in very fast growth, but these type of organizations speak to each other. They have a lot of internal trust built. They have herd mentality. And so when they have Facebook groups and events and shit like that, if they go, Josh's agency is crushing it for us, we love them, 6 of them immediately go, how do I reach out to him? How do I work with him? Give me their number, right? So this is not just, okay, go sell to a coaching group or a franchise. There's a lot of small steps within this that you can do in order to have these conversations. One of the things I always tell everybody is that if you call up a large franchise and go, my agency's so good, we're the best at getting leads, will you talk to us, right? They're just going to say, no, leave me alone. Like, you're the 80th person that sent me a message today. However, if you flip the dynamic and you do this, it works really well. If you reach out to them and go, I have $10,000 in marketing budget allocated for the next quarter, and I want to know if I could spend that money with you. Do you have a sponsorship opportunity? Do you have an event coming up? I know who you are. I know what you're about, and I'd love to give you money. Are you open to that, right? That changes the dynamic of the conversation. Now it's like, you're not trying to sell me anything. You're actually trying to give me money, right? And I use that several times to just get in the door, and there's a lot of nuance and detail to that as well. And then step 7 is essentially going through exit simulations inside your agency, going through due diligence, doing the same things and asking the same questions that a buyer would ask if and when they want to buy your agency. Another big mistake agencies make is like, they scale up to $200,000 a month and they're like, cool, time to sell. Anybody know a broker? They call up a broker, like, list my shit on Biz Buy Sell. And they get an offer. Here's a really depressing, sobering fact. They get an offer for $1.5 million and they're like, holy shit, life's going to change. This is great, right? And then that buyer goes, all right, well, now it's time for due diligence. And they start asking you all these very invasive personal questions about your agency and ultimately start ripping apart everything. There's no perfect business. I don't care how well you're run. They will find problems even in a very well-run agency. So imagine if you don't have things set up the way that they should be set up, or you're not prepared. It's not that the deal won't go through. It might, but what they're going to do is they're going to take that $1.5 million over a 90-day or 120-day period down to 600,000 with 300 down and 300 financed or 300 on an earnout because the agency wasn't worth, in their mind, what the original LOI stated. So this process, in my opinion, has to start 18, 24, even 36 months out from when you really want to exit your agency. And you guys have all saw the statistics, maybe you have or haven't, that I provided, but less than 1% of agencies ever sell. I think it's less than 1%, or maybe that one's 10%. Either way, it's not a lot. Sell for over $1 million, right? And I'll tell you that less than 10% of transactions ever go to completion. So not only do you get beat up in this process, but your focus shifts off the agency. You got someone asking you all these invasive questions, interviewing your clients, interviewing your employees, telling you your shit's all messed up. And then at the end of it all, they either lowball you or they just bail out of the deal altogether. And you end up going, I'm frustrated. I have deal fatigue. I don't want to do this. And 6 months later, you shut down your agency. I know it's a worst case scenario, but this is why it's so important to prep. And the upside in prepping, it's not a waste of time. The more sellable your agency is, the better it will be, if that makes sense. Meaning you're not just prepping for an exit. You're simultaneously creating a better business while you're prepping for an exit. As you learn ways to remove yourself as a CEO, you're actually increasing the value of your business. You're replacing yourself. You're empowering the people in your organization. So it's twofold, right? Which is why it should start early. So these are the 7 steps, very high level, wide umbrella, that I believe every agency has to go through to make serious money and eventually get bought for at least over $1 million. And, can you skip some of these? Maybe. The way that I build them? No. And, I've seen many agencies in 3 years, 4 years, 2.5 years build up to multi-million-dollar trailing 12-month EBITDAs following these steps. And the funny thing is most of them do it unknowingly. They just kind of do it by intuition, organically, and they kind of like stumble around these and do it. So if you're, at the beginning, I'm telling you, do this. And if you're, here where you got all these down, you got acquisition, you got to start focusing on these things.